Hello, I am recording this video from sunny Merida, Yucatan, Mexico, sitting outside a cafe, and I have a story to share today. And I'm reading off my laptop without any shame, my notes. So, almost 7 years ago, it's 2026 right now, so around 2018 or 2019, my entire life shifted, taking me on quite a journey. And one of the major things that happened at that time was that I donated my entire wardrobe. And it didn't happen all at once, but over the span of a few months until I was left with just a few basic items. And at the time, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and I would argue that it was a subconscious process dictated by the cosmos. But along the way, I found myself feeling stripped of my identity, raw, and sometimes confused. So, what was the point of giving away my entire wardrobe and living for several years of my life with three outfits or less, basically, of clothing? What was the point? A lot of what I gained from the process is in hindsight, but I had a few moments of clarity along the way about what the meaning behind the process was. So some of the lessons I learned were practical, and some of them were more like psychological, philosophical, or even spiritual. So the first thing that I realized along the way was obviously getting dressed in the morning was a lot easier. And I don't need to say anything more about that, it's self explanatory. Um, a little bit later on, after stripping my wardrobe down to basic, unstylish, purely functional items that had no sense of identity attached to them whatsoever, and at the same time, I wasn't wearing any makeup, I learned to accept myself as a total, plain Jane, unstylish nobody. So, through that process of learning to accept myself, I believe I developed a deeper sense of self confidence, perhaps compared to the average person who doesn't go through such a process, who relies on their good looks throughout their entire life as a source of confidence. So when you don't have that as a source of confidence, you sometimes have to find yourself having to dig a little bit deeper and just become more comfortable with yourself in any situation, even if you aren't actively um, putting in the effort to fit in with your appearance. And I'll talk more about self acceptance in other videos. So, what I realized a little bit later was how living with just a few basic items of clothing affected my mindset. So, I became more resilient and more resourceful. My mindset changed, and other things that were going on also affected this. So, I no longer felt like I needed very much to get by, and I could make the most of what little I had, which I think is a super positive thing. And the final lesson that I've been learning much more slowly is the practical one, which I am still working on today. So I used to buy clothes completely randomly. I had no system, I didn't do any research, I didn't have any knowledge about fashion, I didn't have any structure to follow whatsoever. So from the time I was like a preteen or a teenager, I just shopped impulsively, sometimes to make myself feel better. That's pretty standard. I think a lot of people just go shopping to make themselves feel better, even if they don't need something. Or like I was searching for a sense of identity, which, my sense of identity was never really that stable, anyways. So as a result, I usually felt disoriented, unsatisfied, and unconfident with my wardrobe. Although there would be moments where I felt happy about an outfit or whatever, and I felt superficially confident. Ultimately, as a whole, it was messy and chaotic and unfulfilling for the most part. So eventually I asked, only recently, probably in the last year, maybe, approximately, I finally started to ask because I really got used to this this simplified life of just really, really minimal wardrobe and not really caring that much about it, about how people perceive my wardrobe. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I still have moments where I'm like, I see other people dressed really nicely, and I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I was done up more, etc. But eventually, I asked myself if I'm going to start buying clothes again, because I have the desire sometimes to do that. How am I going to avoid making the same mistakes from the past? So I've been starting to get a little more educated and organized, learning the basics of color and shape and fabrics. So learning what like my color season is and my body type and stuff like this loosely, not like rules to live by or anything, but just good information to help me feel more oriented when I'm shopping. Um, and then getting more clear on what my priorities are with my clothes. So, like, do my clothes need to have a specific function in order to be satisfying to me, or do they need to fulfill different functions? Is comfort the top priority? Is like the sustainability of the clothes the top priority? How they're made? Obviously, I've learned that like natural fabrics are better, higher quality, more breathable, and depending on if depending on how exactly they're produced, more sustainable. And how do I want my clothes to express different sides of myself? So this is a big one and a tough one, but also kind of a fun one. Um, and how can they do that, but at the same time be contribute to creating a cohesive whole wardrobe and easily mix and match so that it's functional from that perspective. And then the next piece of this puzzle is for me gaining experience practicing clothes shopping more consciously. Because for me, as a young woman or a teenager, it wasn't fun. It was like kind of a weird, stressful, weirdly for me. I don't know about other women, but kind of there's some like wounds or some like mini subtle traumas. So taking myself clothes shopping and doing it more consciously and like healing through it. So recently I went to a boutique here in the city and I just I realized these old patterns from the past where I'm like changing my clothes in a panic, like I'm about to like rip these clothes that I'm trying on, or I'm getting like deodorant on them and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, I need to calm down. I need to like take a deep fucking breath and calm down and like just take your time. Wow, like be in your body and like figure out how to put on clothes and take them off like properly, because this is something that I didn't learn. I don't know if some people's moms teach them this or what, but I didn't learn, and for me it was always just kind of a stressful thing. So it's not like I felt like peaceful and present, so I could just naturally get dressed and undressed in like a good healthy way. So gaining experience with that, allowing myself to slow down and enjoy the process, and in some cases, like asking the shop staff for help. Like when I was younger, I did not feel comfortable asking people for help. And so getting comfortable with that, like there are shop staff for a reason, and a lot of time they'll be like interested and knowledgeable about fashion, so they can like give you a second opinion and hopefully back it up with some actual knowledge about fashion, and that can be really helpful to get a second opinion because sometimes we get tunnel vision when we're looking, or we have emotional reactions to what we're wearing, and it can be really helpful to get somebody else's opinion. And then the last point about gaining experience shopping is giving myself as much time as I need to decide um, which items truly work for me and leaving the others behind. So for me, I'm a little bit indecisive. Libra rising, if that means anything to you, a little bit indecisive, and sometimes it takes me a long time to make a decision about something. Whereas in the past, I would just kind of make an impulsive decision. Now I'm like allowing myself, if I need to stand in the change room for like 20 minutes thinking, then so be it. Like, you know, arrest me. You know, like, what's the problem? Oh, like, shop staff be annoyed that I'm taking too long in the change room. Like, come knock on the door and say, like, are you okay in there? Do whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm taking my time because I don't want to rush myself into buying something that I don't actually need or want, and then accidentally leaving behind the items that I didn't realize actually were best suited for my wardrobe. So, and then finally, I'm need to be honest with myself before go and start buying new clothes about my own capacity to care for the new items that I purchase, because I don't want to start investing in new clothes, especially if I'm caring about the quality of them, when I'm not really in a position in my life to take good care of those new clothes. So I'd rather just continue to have a really like basic minimalist wardrobe if that's the case. So um, that's where I'm at today. I'm still gradually gaining experience and getting more educated, getting more clear on what I want my wardrobe to look like and how I want it to function. And I'm waiting for a time in my life when I'm really ready to invest in clothes that I love and I want to and am able to care for in the way that they deserve. So, yeah, in the meantime, I don't have 10 out of 10 confidence, but I do think that I've gained deepened confidence, resilience, and resourcefulness. And I'm really grateful for the journey that I've been on of learning to love myself for more than meets the eye. And as a final caveat, most of this process that I went through happened away from my hometown and away from social media and from the eyes of all of my peers, and with emotional support and guidance from a committed partner, who was a little bit older than me and very experienced and wise and cared a lot for me and helped me through the process. So I'm not sure that I could have done it without those specific circumstances. So by no means would I expect anybody else to go through the same process, but still hopefully someone can gain something from what I shared today in this video. Um, so thanks for watching, and please like or subscribe or leave some comments on the video if this brings anything up for you. I would love to hear from anybody who happens to watch this video. That's all. Bye bye.